Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the Vato speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby Maine. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
That ain't big enough, big racks. I got big racks. Where your bitch at? Set up shop, nigga, fuck the cops. I got plenty guap. Young Rude at the down fool with the down two. With the gang, nigga, try the gang, nigga, bust hurt. Bad bitch, she done suck me up for them brand new J's. Trap nigga, 6 phone, doing at least a brick a day. Re-rock machine, one and I scratch it at 2. Man, keep the soft in the fool who stopping the crew. Favor for favor with rude. Bitch, I'ma do what I do. Money be big as a bundle. She give me her number. That bitch gotta fuck me for some. I just been stacking in commas. I'm getting this money. I might just cut me a home.
Gone too soon. NBC News confirming up-and-coming Atlanta rapper LiL Marlo, whose real name is Rudolph Johnson, died over the weekend. Atlanta police finding the 30-year-old shot to death inside a car involved in a single-car crash along I-285 South near the Benjamin E. Mays Drive overpass Saturday night. Police are still searching for the shooter. LiL Marlo was signed to Atlanta's Quality Control Music.
Do you remember your very last day hustling?
Yeah, I don't remember like the very last day, but I remember the time period when I told myself like I ain't gonna do nothing to jeopardize my career, because I started feeling like it was a career. First when I started rapping, it was just a, fun thing, maybe not. But then once I see it was serious and I could get a deal and stuff like that, I was just like, I ain't gonna do that no more.
And it was easy for you to leave it behind?
Sort of, kind of. Because I was making real money rapping, so definitely was easy once it got to that point. But the most hard part was like when I was making more
in the streets
than I was rapping.
You just see your man slumping on the expressway. You kind of feel some type of way. But if you know the situation and you know what's going on and you know at the back of your head, you know they still come with it. That's a part of the streets. Some people get killed. I know that come with being in the street already. It ain't like Marlo got killed and I was like, damn, boy, you can really get killed out here. I know this. This ain't nothing I don't know. Marlo a real case of like the streets and the rapping. Two whole different worlds. And he more so got caught up in the streets than rapping. He was always supportive, man. He was always happy for baby. Bro, even if I don't.
The driver was shot. The vehicle came to rest on the left side of the southbound lanes. Atlanta police homicide investigators responded to the scene and immediately began their investigation. At this time, investigators believe the victim was the intended target of the gunfire, and they are working to determine the circumstances surrounding the shooting. At this time, the investigation continues. Marlo signed to Quality Control in 2017. In that same year, he and Lil Baby collaborated on the To the Hard Way mixtape.
Keep pouring in for Atlanta rapper LiL Marlo.
He was an artist on the rise, shot and killed Saturday night over what investigators call a targeted attack. Naima Abdullahi shares how the community is remembering him.
The world knew him as LiL Marlo, but his Westside Atlanta community, they knew Rudy, a proud product of Bowen Homes, the notorious neighborhood where Atlanta hip-hop legend Shawty Lo also grew up.
I wish he was still here to see me doing it.
And now they're both reunited, looking down on their community.
R.I.P. Marlo from the QC family.
A few years back, one could make the assumption that Lil Baby and LiL Marlo were a rap duo by how much music they released together. A brotherhood. If you knew Lil Baby, you knew LiL Marlo. As the tributes pour in, it's clear that LiL Marlo had next, but those he wanted respect from in the industry already knew his potential. Here in the West Side, they'll continue to honor him.
Sometimes you just gotta accept the situation for what it is. And learn from it.
Walking around where Bowen Homes once stood,
Oh God, I trade everything for this.
you can tell Lil Marlo was always proud of where he came from. He leaves behind a family, his children, and a community that's missing Rudy.
And we'll keep asking Atlanta police for new details about the shooting. So far, no arrests.
Now, this story is a cautionary tale. I would say more than any other story I have ever done. What up, though? It's Shades Popalot. Salute the almighty mob. We down in Atlanta on mob business. Y'all go ahead and meet us on the west side, Zone 1, Bowen Homes. But this shit gonna really jump on the 9. Now, today we gonna be covering somebody that I really have to say that however it came about with me making this mob tie shit, it was guys like this that I had in mind of covering, but not for the reason of who they are or who the world has known them to be or who they grew to be, but really all the stuff before that, the details, their struggles, and the lessons that could be learned and taught to others. And if you're familiar with the person that we're covering today, or if you locked in now, you're going to see why it's so dangerous to have one foot in the door and one foot in the streets, or having a foot on the stage and having a foot on the block. If it was any way to look that up in a dictionary, it would be a picture of Rudolph Little Rue Johnson, or LiL Marlo, which is the name we all grown to know him by. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about how a kid could grow up in one of the most notorious housing projects in the city of Atlanta, probably picturing and idolizing somebody in that projects that would go on to reach mega stardom, and really seemed to have a want for that same thing for himself. And music would attempt to save his life on, I want to say, more than 5 occasions, but he just couldn't seem to let it. Now, based on all my research, Marlo was born and raised in the now defunct Bowen Homes housing projects in Atlanta. For those tuned in not familiar with Bowen Homes, it was tore down a few years ago, almost for being a nuisance to the community, kind of whatever the strategy that they're using to tear down any other projects. Bowen Homes was on that list. And coming out of any projects is really hard, but with Bowen Homes, you kind of put a little extra sauce on it. And it was made famous. A lot of people know when you first hear the name, you probably instantly think of Atlanta hip-hop legend Shorty Low, who I would see that during the course of doing my research for this episode, that LiL Marlo would have a huge admiration for, and would say that he known since the young age of 3. So growing up, seeing somebody that was probably more legendary for shit that they was doing in the streets than anything that they could do behind a mic, ain't really no telling how much effect that had on LiL Marlo. And it's not much said about his household growing up, but it was noted that he would have a close relationship with his stepmother. School didn't really seem like it was too important, as he would admit in the interview that he dropped out of school in 9th grade, even though he would pursue a program to get his GED. By all accounts, it seems like his major was primarily the streets, specifically math. And long before anybody would really see his face on a video or hear his voice on a song, Marlo, or Little Rue, was making a name for himself on the west side. And what makes his story really different to me is most of the times you're either going to have somebody getting money, and the other times you're going to have somebody putting in work. But Marlo is going to be a case of both. Now, in what I would call the first instance of music trying to save Marlo's life would come in a situation that he explained in an interview where another well-known face in the city of Atlanta, Big Bank Black, who he also had a relationship with, would pick him up one day. They would ride around Marlo under the pretense that they're making moves for Big Bank Black. They end up in the studio. Marlo, in what he thought was a situation where he would be picking out a beat for Big Bank Black to perform on, he was actually picking out the beat for a song titled Set Up Shop that would first be seen on the popular YouTube channel that featured music in June of 2017, but would really be broadcasted to the world on Lil Baby's original YouTube channel and then to World Star Hip Hop on July 18th, 2017. And going over the facts of Marlo's life, it's like I almost determined that him and Lil Baby are essentially the same person. And y'all don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's like no Gucci Mane home from jail clone or none of that kind of shit. I'm just saying that they literally had the same options and the same outlets, but chose two separate paths. And Marlo had that option even first. So much so that you could almost say that you can put the shoe on any foot, that if Marlo would have pursued doing the music and Baby would have stayed in the streets, he possibly could have met that same fate. And I'm going to go as far as say that the song Set Up Shop possibly saved his life. And if anybody is familiar with Lil Baby or his music or his career, you will all hear the stories about how P from QC tried to get him into the studio. I think I heard a story about Young Thug paying for him to be in the studio to record. But I'm going to say it was the conversation that he would have with Marlo right after Marlo would be tricked into recording the song by Big Bank Black that would lead him to pursue music more than any of those other theories. Because in the conversation where Marlo would explain him kicking the shit with Lil Baby as they was close. Now, according to a few people that I talked to, this relationship would pretty much establish from Lil Marlo building his name in the streets. Lil Baby also from the west side, I want to say from Zone 4. The neighborhood that he is from is not far. I want to say they explained to me like a 10-minute drive from the neighborhood where Marlo would pretty much make his name, the Nine. The streets would click the two up long before music. And in a conversation that I'm sure was funny between the two, probably how they looked at rappers or just what rappers was, Marlo would mention to Lil Baby that he should do music, convincing him by sending him that song. And I'm sure no matter how good it was to Lil Baby at the time, just hearing your homeboy on wax probably put that little bit of battery in your back just to even try to go record something better than he did. So like I stated earlier, the first song Set Up Shop that Marlo would record, I guess would first appear on June 22nd, 2017. And it wouldn't be weeks from when that song was released on that YouTube music channel Rap Daily that Lil Baby would go on to start his own YouTube channel and release 3 songs on July the 12th, 2017, and released 3 videos, Grinding, Racks, and Options, which Marlo would say in the interview was the very first song that Lil Baby would record. And if you want a lesson in determination, just go back and look at Lil Baby on those YouTube videos just 5 years ago, because I'm not Quincy Jones or nothing, but it was not hitting at that time. Definitely like it's hitting for him now. Not to say that he was the most horrible thing I ever heard, but if you compare it to what you hear now, it's literally night and day. And that's really kind of where the shift or the split will begin, though it would never be no fallout, as Lil Baby would rap on probably one of his most popular songs, Marlo My Dog, That's For Show. We won't fall out about shit, especially not about no bitch. But the two would take different paths as right around the time that they both was cracking in the music in the summer of 2017, Marlo would explain to Lil Baby that he was on a situation, but he would encourage Lil Baby to stay with the music. And if you look at his career, the rest is pretty much history. And though the two close friends that essentially came in the game together was heading down different paths, Lil Baby would find himself still connected to Marlo through an infamous event that some people even blame for the reason for Lil Marlo's death. Now, a guy I have built a journalistic relationship with would be a guy by the name of George Cheedy, who happened to appear on DJ Vlad's channel, and he was actually speaking on the death of Lil Marlo, and he referenced a murder case that Lil Marlo's older brother apparently was involved in. During the interview with Vlad, George Cheetah would say that the murder was gang-related, and that might possibly be the case. But during the course of my research, I also seen that the murder happened to be drug-related, where the media would describe it as a drug deal gone bad or a botched drug deal, but which actually sounds like just a jack when I look at it, where two guys went to an apartment that one had previously been to purchasing marijuana. And when they arrived in the apartment, they was ambushed by two men. Now, these two men are very important because of the relationships they have with the two rappers. One who George Cheedy identified as Marlo's older brother and I guess subsequent manager. The other being a somewhat infamous individual from Atlanta with a close connection to Lil Baby, a guy by the name of Little Steve McAllister, or G5. Now, the two men would be charged with this drug murder, and the charges would eventually be dropped because a wild situation would happen where the prosecutor during trial would ask the judge to drop the charges, with them having the ability to bring those murder charges back up due to the fact that they couldn't find witnesses to prosecute the two men for the murders. The charges would subsequently be dropped, and some people would go on to blame or look at that as a motive for Marlo's murder. But other rumors also fly around, as Marlo was a known member of, depending on how you search it on the internet, probably Atlanta's most hated gang, PFK, or Play for Keeps. And just like I said, depending on how you search it on the internet, they would have Play for Keeps, or PFK, and rivalries with almost all of the most notorious alleged gangs in Atlanta, like 4L and YSL mainly. People would also rumor of an alleged hit that didn't go according to plan that Marlo had something to do with in 2019. But just like a lot of the cases with these streets, and definitely when these murders are unsolved, there's going to be infinite amount of theories. But the one thing that I could truly say that's not a theory after doing all of this research was that the music and the music gods was sending Marlo so many signs to get out of the game, starting with him being chased by Big Bank Black, or him saying Coach K wanted to get him, or him explaining the situation of how P would hear a song that he recorded with Hitmaker and be surprised that it was even him, expressing to Hitmaker how he was been trying to get Marlo to get into the music game. But sometimes the money, and just like he would say in an interview with Off the Porch or Dirty Glove Bastard, the money is just not the same. And sometimes it's not the money, it's the thrill. So you just got to know that the thing about having 1 foot out and 1 foot in is you can't have both your eyes on one thing, and that could leave you blinded. Now, in a situation where it's almost getting too regular to try to tell these stories, I hope somebody listening takes heed to this and learns something. Because to be honest, when you look at or listen to both of them in the summer of 2017, it would be almost impossible to say Lil Baby sounded better than Lil Marlo. And who knows what Lil Marlo could have did had he stuck down on the music. Now, y'all make sure y'all hit the red bell and the subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. Y'all get in the comment box and y'all talk about exactly that, how big he could have been. I guess, what's the theories? What y'all got? What's the reason that happened to him? If y'all got any stories about young Ru or Marlo, y'all get in the comment box, run it up, especially if y'all from the West Side Zone 1. And y'all know the verdict. I'm going to be back with some more real trill spill shit. Y'all tapping with me directly. Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. And until the next time, salute the almighty mob.